These are the stories of lottery winners who went from unimaginable fortune to complete disaster. Money that promised freedom but delivered addiction, crime, and tragedy. And one of the most infamous cases of all was Jack Whittaker. In December 2002, Jack Whittaker from West Virginia won the $315 million Powerball jackpot at the time, the largest single lottery prize in US history. Unlike most winners, Jack was already wealthy. He owned a successful construction company and had a net worth of several $1,000,000 before the lottery. After his win, Whittaker chose the lump sum payout of about $113 million after taxes. But instead of securing his future, the money brought chaos. In 2003, thieves broke into his car and stole $545,000 in cash that he was carrying. A year later, $200,000 was stolen the same way. He became an easy target because he often traveled with large amounts of money. His generosity also backfired. He gave his granddaughter, Brandy Bragg, thousands of dollars in spending money. She used it to fund a drug habit and died of an overdose in 2004. At just 17 years old, his daughter, Ginger, died a few years later. Whittaker himself was repeatedly arrested for driving under the influence and was sued by several casinos for bouncing checks worth millions of dollars. By the end of the decade, most of his fortune was gone. In interviews, he admitted that winning the lottery had destroyed his life, saying, "I wish I had torn that ticket up." Jack Whittaker went from record-breaking lottery winner to a tragic cautionary tale. In November 2002, Michael Carroll, a 19-year-old garbage collector from Norfolk, England, won the national lottery jackpot of £9.7 million. Overnight, he became one of Britain's youngest millionaires. At first, Carroll promised to stay grounded. But within months, the tabloids gave him a new name, the Lotto Lout. His fortune was spent on luxury cars, gold jewelry, alcohol, cocaine, and prostitutes. He bought a mansion, but within a year it was trashed, windows smashed, furniture destroyed, even bullet holes in the walls from wild parties. Neighbors complained constantly, and police were called to his property dozens of times. Carroll was also arrested several times for fighting and reckless behavior. He claimed to spend up to £2,000 a day on drugs and admitted to hiring prostitutes regularly. By 2010, less than a decade after his win, the money was gone. He applied for his old job back as a garbage collector. When asked what happened to the £9.7 million, Carroll simply said, "Easy come, easy go." Michael Carroll's story remains one of the most notorious examples of how fast a lottery fortune can vanish. In 2003, Callie Rogers made history as the youngest ever lottery winner in the United Kingdom. At just 16 years old, while working as a shop assistant earning £3.60 an hour, she hit the jackpot. £1.9 million, around $3 million US at the time. The win instantly catapulted her into the spotlight. Overnight, she went from an ordinary teenager to a millionaire, chased by tabloids and so-called friends who wanted a piece of her fortune. But instead of securing her future, the money led her into a storm of scandal and self-destruction. Callie began spending recklessly. Reports estimate that she spent more than £300,000 on parties, alcohol, and wild nights out. She gave away nearly £500,000 to friends and family, much of it never returned. She bought designer clothing, luxury vacations, and expensive cars. Despite not even having a driver's license at the time, drugs became another major scandal. Callie later admitted she spent over £250,000 on cocaine alone. Her circle of friends grew, but most were there only for her money. As the years went by, her relationships collapsed, and she found herself increasingly isolated. She also turned to cosmetic surgery, spending tens of thousands of pounds on breast implants and other procedures. The tabloids had a field day, labeling her Britain's unluckiest lottery winner. But behind the headlines, Callie's mental health was spiraling. She battled depression and even attempted suicide multiple times. By her mid-20s, most of the money was gone. She was living on benefits, struggling as a single mother, and trying to rebuild her life away from the public eye. Her case became so notorious that it influenced actual law. The UK raised the minimum age for playing the National Lottery from 16 to 18, with many citing Callie Rogers as a prime example of why teenagers shouldn't be allowed to suddenly win millions. Today, Callie admits that the win nearly destroyed her life. In her own words, money doesn't buy happiness. It ruined my life because I was too young to handle it. In 1988, William Budd Post III from Pennsylvania won $16.2 million in the state lottery. It should have been the turning point of his life. But within weeks, his win became one of the most infamous lottery scandals in American history. Post chose annual payments of about $500,000 a year. Almost immediately, relatives and strangers lined up to demand money. He bought a mansion, a used car lot, and even an airplane, despite not knowing how to fly. Within months, he was already in debt. But the real scandals came from his own family. His brother plotted to hire a hitman to kill Bud, hoping to inherit the winnings. The plan was uncovered by police, and his brother went to prison. Another lawsuit followed from his ex-girlfriend, who had bought him the winning ticket. A court awarded her 1/3 of his prize, instantly slashing his fortune. Bud also had a long criminal record and continued to run into trouble with the law. He was arrested multiple times for writing bad checks, threatening debt collectors with firearms, and even firing a shotgun at a man who came to his home to collect a bill. By the early 1990 seconds, Bud was bankrupt. He owed more than $500,000 in debts and was living on disability checks. Looking back, he admitted he wasn't ready for the money. In his own words, everybody dreams of winning money, but nobody realizes the nightmares that come out of the woodwork or the problems. The man who once held a fortune of over $16 million died in 2006 with almost nothing to his name. Bud Post's story is not just about financial mismanagement, it's about betrayal, violence, and the darkest side of sudden wealth. We chase the dream of sudden wealth, imagining freedom, luxury, and happiness. But history shows us something darker. A lottery win is not just a pile of money, it is a storm. It magnifies greed, it attracts predators, and it tests every weakness a person carries inside. Money alone does not fix broken habits, heal addictions, or protect families. In fact, sudden fortune often accelerates destruction. What looks like a miracle ticket can turn into a curse, stripping away trust, health, and even life itself. The truth is simple, but hard to accept. Wealth without wisdom is dangerous. It can buy parties, cars, and houses, but it cannot buy peace of mind, loyalty, or love. Those things are earned, not purchased. So, the next time you dream of a jackpot, remember this: the biggest risk is not losing the lottery, the biggest risk may be winning it.